The conference room aboard the Eternal Dominion was massive, built to intimidate. Commander Vokhtar of the Vrexian Empire stood at the head of a long metal table, his four arms crossed behind his back. Around him sat his war council, veterans of dozens of planetary conquests. Today's meeting would be short. The target was weak. "Show me the planet again," Vokhtar commanded. A holographic image appeared above the table. A blue and green world, third from its sun, rotating slowly. The planet was called Earth in the native language. Vokhtar studied it with his dark eyes. It looked pleasant enough. Soon it would belong to the Empire. "What are their defenses?" he asked. His tactical officer, a thin Vrexian named Relkith, pulled up more data. "Minimal, Commander. We detected no orbital weapons platforms, no energy shields. Their most advanced spacecraft cannot even break light speed. They are confined to their own star system." Vokhtar clicked his mandibles together, a sign of satisfaction. "And their political structure?" "Fragmented," Relkith continued. "Over 190 separate nations. They fight among themselves constantly. Small wars, border conflicts, resource disputes. They have nuclear weapons, but only enough to destroy themselves, not us." Another council member spoke up. "Their technology is primitive. They still burn fossil fuels for energy. They have barely explored their own moon. This will be the easiest conquest of the year." Vokhtar nodded slowly. The Vrexian Empire had conquered 47 star systems in the past 3,000 years. This would be number 48. He felt almost disappointed by how easy it would be. "Why are we bothering with such a backward world?" asked one of the younger officers. "They developed faster-than-light communication 3 months ago," Relkith explained. "It was crude, experimental. But they did it. In another 100 years, they might develop FTL travel. The Empire prefers to absorb species before they become problems." Vokhtar agreed with this logic. Better to strike now, while the humans were weak and divided. "Prepare the 7th Assault Fleet. 300 warships. We will show overwhelming force. I want them to surrender without resistance." 300 ships? The young officer seemed surprised. "Is that not excessive for such primitives?" "The Vrexian doctrine is clear," Vokhtar said firmly. "We always use more force than necessary. Fear is our greatest weapon. When they see our fleet darkening their skies, they will kneel." The council agreed. Orders went out across the fleet. 300 warships began preparations for the jump to Earth system. It would take them 3 days to arrive. Meanwhile, on Earth, something was happening in Seoul. Admiral Kang Dae sat in the Pan-Pacific Defense Coordination Center, staring at his monitors with growing concern. The center was buried deep underground, protected by meters of reinforced concrete and steel. Most people didn't know it existed. Dae preferred it that way. "Run the scan again," he told his sensor operator. The young officer, Lieutenant Buell Tai, typed rapidly on her console. "Same results, sir. 3 weeks ago, we detected massive energy displacements in deep space. The signatures don't match anything in our databases." Dae leaned forward. He had been monitoring space for 30 years. He knew what human ships looked like on sensors. He knew what asteroids looked like. He knew what solar radiation looked like. This was none of those things. "What's your best guess?" he asked Tay. She hesitated. "If I had to say, it looks like ships, sir. Very large ships. Moving faster than light. Coming toward us." Day felt his stomach tighten. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. It appeared they were about to get an answer. He picked up his secure phone and dialed a number in the North Atlantic. Admiral Hana Yuri answered on the first ring. She commanded the North Atlantic Defense Grid, Earth's second-largest military installation. Like Dai, she had been in the service for decades. "Hana, we have a situation," Dai said quietly. He explained the sensor readings. Yuri listened in silence. When he finished, she was quiet for a moment. "You're thinking first contact," she finally said. "I'm thinking we need to activate Protocol Sentinel." Protocol Sentinel was humanity's theoretical response to alien contact. It had been developed over 50 years by military planners who spent too much time thinking about worst-case scenarios. No one ever thought it would actually be used. If we activate Sentinel, we alert every defense installation from Mars to the outer belt, Yuri said. We'll cause a panic. Better a panic we can control than an invasion we can't, Day replied. Yuri agreed. Within an hour, encrypted messages went out to defense stations across the solar system. Most people didn't know these stations existed either. Humanity had been building them in secret for over a century, ever since the first moon landing. Just in case, on Luna, Earth's moon, Dr. Yoon Sol was enjoying a rare vacation when her phone rang. She was the lead physicist at the Lunar Defense Research Institute, which meant she understood the weapon systems better than anyone alive. She didn't want to answer. She answered anyway. Dr. Sol, we need you back at the institute immediately, said the voice on the other end. I'm on vacation, Sol protested. We have unknown contacts approaching the solar system. We need your analysis. Sol's vacation ended. 2 hours later, she was in her lab, studying the energy signatures Day had sent her. What she saw made her hands shake. The energy output of the approaching objects was enormous. Whatever was coming toward Earth had power sources that made human nuclear reactors look like campfires. She ran calculations, checked them twice, then sent her report to Day and Yuri. Her conclusion was simple and terrifying. The objects would arrive in 72 hours. They were almost certainly spacecraft. And based on their energy signatures, they were warships. Day received Sol's report in his office. He read it 3 times. Then he called an emergency meeting with Earth's Defense Council. The meeting included representatives from every major nation. Some of them didn't believe him. Others accused him of fear-mongering. A few took him seriously. What do you propose? Asked the Chinese representative. We prepare for the worst, Day said. We bring every defense platform online. We ready every weapon, and we hope we're wrong. And if we're not wrong? Asked the American representative. Then humanity is about to have its first war with an alien species, Day said quietly. The council voted. Not everyone agreed, but enough did. Orders went out. On Earth, on Luna, on Mars, on the asteroid belt stations that officially didn't exist, weapons came online. Crews reported to their posts. Engineers checked systems that hadn't been fully tested in years. The world's civilian population noticed nothing. They went about their lives, unaware that in 72 hours everything might change. High above Earth, on a weapons platform disguised as a research station, Commander Ryu Na watched her screens. She had spent 15 years in space. She loved it up here. The silence. The stars. The peace. She had a feeling the peace was about to end. In the Vrexian fleet, Commander Vokhtar stood on his bridge, watching the stars streak past as his ships traveled faster than light. 300 warships, more than enough to conquer a primitive world. He had no idea he was about to make the worst mistake of his life. The two forces rushed toward each other through the darkness of space. One confident and powerful, the other afraid but prepared. In 72 hours they would meet. The galaxy would never be the same. The Vrexian 7th Fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. 300 warships appeared in normal space simultaneously, their hulls gleaming under the distant light of the sun. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, Commander Vokhtar felt satisfaction wash over him. The journey had been smooth. Now came the easy part. Sensor report, he commanded. Sub-Commander Relkith studied his displays, then frowned. Sir, I'm detecting multiple installations throughout the system. How many? Vokhtar asked, unconcerned. Probably research stations or mining platforms. 47 distinct structures. They're spread from the inner planets to the outer belt. Vokhtar waved a hand dismissively. Automated facilities. The humans cannot have built anything significant. They barely left their own planet. Proceed to attack formation. Set course for Earth. The fleet began moving. 300 ships arranged themselves into a formation designed to intimidate and destroy. They would approach Earth at sublight speed, allowing the primitives time to see them coming, time to understand how hopeless resistance would be. On Earth, in the Pan-Pacific Defense Center, Admiral Kang Day watched the alien fleet appear on his screens. Despite expecting it, despite preparing for it, actually seeing 300 alien warships was different. His mouth went dry. "They're here," he said quietly. Beside him, Lieutenant Buell-Tai was already working. Her fingers flew across her console, sending signals to every defense platform in the solar system. "All stations report ready, sir. Weapons are online and tracking the enemy fleet." Day nodded. Humanity had 23 defense platforms orbiting Earth alone. More on Luna, more on Mars, more scattered through the asteroid belt. All of them were equipped with weapons that humanity had spent 100 years developing in secret. Weapons that had never been tested in real combat. He hoped they worked. Admiral Hana Yuri's face appeared on his screen, transmitting from the North Atlantic defense grid. "Day, I'm seeing the same thing you are. What's our move?" "We follow protocol," Day said. "Send them a greeting. Offer them a chance to talk." Yuri looked doubtful. "You think they came all this way to talk?" "No. But we need to try. If this goes badly, I want history to record that we tried peace first." Yuri agreed. She composed a message in 47 Earth languages, plus mathematical sequences that any advanced species should understand. The message was simple. "We come in peace. We wish to communicate. Please respond." She broadcast it toward the alien fleet and waited. The response came 30 minutes later. A harsh, clicking voice spoke through the communication systems, translated by Earth's computers. The message was not friendly. "Primitive humans of Earth, you have been selected for incorporation into the Vrexian Empire. Surrender immediately and unconditionally. Resistance will result in the complete destruction of your cities and the enslavement of your population. You have 2 hours to comply." In the defense center, Day and Yuri looked at each other through the video link. There would be no negotiation, no peaceful first contact. The aliens had come to conquer. "Well," Yuri said quietly, "at least we know where we stand." On Luna, Dr. Yoon Sol was in the Lunar Defense Research Institute, running final calculations. She had been analyzing the alien fleet for the past 3 hours, studying their energy signatures, their formation, their approach speed. What she discovered both worried and excited her. She called D immediately. "Admiral, I need to tell you something important." "Go ahead, Doctor." "The alien ships are powerful, very powerful, but their defensive systems are optimized for specific types of weapons, kinetic weapons, plasma weapons, energy shields designed to stop those types of attacks." "And our weapons?" Day asked. "Our weapons evolved differently," Sewell explained. "We developed gravitational weapons, quantum frequency beams, relativistic projectiles guided by AI. The aliens have never encountered weapons like ours. Their shields might not work against them." Day felt a small spark of hope. "Might? I won't lie to you, Admiral. This is theory. We've never tested these weapons against alien technology. But based on my analysis, I think we have a chance." "Thank you, Doctor. Return to your station and prepare to fire on my command." Sewell nodded and ended the call. She walked through the lunar facility to the weapons control room. The gravitational lensing weapons were her design. Massive installations that could bend space itself, creating localized gravitational fields strong enough to crush a ship into a singularity. She had built them because the physics fascinated her. She never thought she would actually use them to kill. War was coming. She would be ready. Back on the Eternal Dominion, Commander Vokhtar was growing impatient. The 2 hours he had given the humans were almost up. There had been no response, no surrender. Fine. He would make an example of their largest city. "Charge weapons," he ordered. "Target the planetary surface. Prepare to—" "Sir," Relkith interrupted. "Those installations throughout the system, they're activating. Energy readings are spiking." Vokhtar frowned. "What kind of energy?" I don't recognize the signatures. This isn't standard weapons technology." For the first time, Vokhtar felt a small touch of uncertainty. But only a small one. 300 ships? Even if the humans had weapons, even if they had some surprises, sheer numbers would win. The Vrexian Empire had conquered 47 worlds. This would be no different. All ships raise shields. Maintain approach. If they want to fight, we will show them the price of defiance. On Earth, Admiral Kang Day stood in the defense center, watching the alien fleet cross the line they had designated as the point of no return. 200,000 kilometers from Earth. If the aliens crossed it, humanity would interpret it as an act of war. The fleet crossed it. All stations, Day said into his microphone. His voice was calm. He had trained for this moment his entire career. You are weapons-free. Engage the enemy. Throughout the solar system, on platforms hidden among the rocks and ice, human weapons came to life. On Luna, Dr. Saul activated the gravitational lensing array. On Mars, Captain Han Mina powered up the relativistic railguns. In the asteroid belt, Commander Ryu Na brought her directed energy weapons online. In Earth orbit, Lieutenant Bayul Tai synchronized the particle beam platforms. Admiral Yuri, from her station in the Atlantic, coordinated them all. Every weapon, every platform, every shot synchronized down to the nanosecond. Fire, Day commanded. The solar system lit up with weapons fire. Not the fire of bullets or missiles. This was different. Beams of energy that made the air glow. Distortions in space itself. Projectiles moving at 90% the speed of light. On the Eternal Dominion, alarms began to scream. Incoming fire, Relkith shouted. Multiple sources. Unknown weapon types. Vokhtar grabbed the arms of his command chair. Shields! But the shields did nothing. The human weapons passed through them as if they weren't there, or crushed the ships despite them, or struck so fast that the shields never had time to react. The first Vrexian ships began to die. Vokhtar watched in horror as 15 of his cruisers simply collapsed inward, crushed by invisible hands. They became smaller and smaller until they vanished into points of light. Gone. More ships exploded as projectiles moving near light speed tore through them. At those speeds, anything they hit turned to plasma. Return fire, Vokhtar screamed. All ships, return fire. The Vrexian fleet tried. They fired their plasma cannons and kinetic weapons. But the human platforms were small, distant, and protected by their own shields. Most of the Vrexian shots missed. The few that hit bounced harmlessly off defensive barriers. More ships died. 40, 50, 70. The number kept climbing. Vokhtar realized with growing terror that he had made a terrible mistake. This wasn't a primitive world. This was a trap. All ships retreat, he ordered. Full speed, retreat to the jump point. But it was too late. The human weapons were already firing again. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted 58 seconds. Dr. Yoon Sol stood in the Lunar Defense Research Institute's control room, her hands steady on the controls despite her racing heart. The gravitational lensing array was her life's work, built over 15 years of research and testing. She had never wanted to use it to kill. But watching the alien fleet advance toward Earth, she knew she had no choice. The weapons fired again. Invisible fingers of warped spacetime reached across the void and grabbed 15 more Vrexian cruisers. Sol watched on her monitors as the ships crumpled like paper in a fist, their hulls bending and twisting as gravity itself became a weapon. The ships compressed smaller and smaller until they reached the event horizon and became singularities. Then they were gone, leaving only brief flashes of radiation. Lunar array recharging, Sewell reported calmly into her headset. Next salvo in 18 seconds. On Mars Station 7, Captain Han Mina had a different weapon to work with. The station sat on the surface of Mars, disguised as a mining facility. Hidden beneath the red soil were electromagnetic rails stretching for kilometers. These rails could accelerate tungsten rods to 90% of light speed. At those speeds, physics did the rest. Each rod massed only a few kilograms, but speed transformed them into planet killers. When they struck a Vrexian destroyer, the impact released energy equivalent to a nuclear explosion. Matter and antimatter meeting at relativistic velocity didn't just explode, it simply ceased to exist in any recognizable form. Mina fired the rails in sequence. 40 shots. 40 Vrexian ships turned into expanding clouds of superheated plasma. Her targeting AI, developed over decades of computer research, predicted where each enemy ship would be before they got there. The Vrexians never had time to dodge. Mars batteries depleted, Mina reported. Reloading, 2 minutes. In the asteroid belt, Commander Ryu Na commanded a network of platforms hidden among the rocks and ice. Her weapons were directed energy beams operating on quantum frequencies. The theory was simple but devastating. Most energy shields worked by deflecting or absorbing conventional energy. But quantum frequency beams existed in multiple states simultaneously until they struck their target. They passed through normal shields as if the shields weren't there. Na fired. Coherent beams of quantum energy lanced across space. They passed through Vrexian shield generators without triggering them. Then they struck the hulls of 73 destroyers and began exciting the molecules. Temperature inside the ships rose. 1,000 degrees. 2,000. 5,000. The ships cooked from the inside. Hull metal began to glow, then melt, then vaporize. Atmospheres ignited. Crews died before they understood what was happening. Belt platforms green, Na reported, ready for second wave. Closer to Earth, in orbital platforms that the world's civilians thought were research stations, Lieutenant Buell Tai coordinated the particle beam weapons. These were the most experimental weapons in humanity's arsenal. They disrupted matter at the molecular level, breaking the bonds that held atoms together. Tai fired. Particle beams invisible to the naked eye reached out and touched 30 Vrexian warships. The effect was immediate and horrifying. Hull plates simply dissolved like sugar in water. Internal structures fell apart. Ships came to pieces in slow motion, breaking into smaller and smaller fragments until nothing remained but clouds of individual atoms drifting in space. Orbital batteries cycling, Tai reported, ready to fire. In the Pan-Pacific Defense Center, Admiral Kong Day watched his tactical display with a mixture of awe and horror. The display showed the battlefield in real time, updated by sensors throughout the solar system. Red icons represented enemy ships. As he watched, red icons blinked out one after another. His tactical AI counted for him. 12 seconds since the first shot. 178 enemy vessels destroyed. 122 attempting to retreat. Don't let them regroup, Day said into his command channel. All stations, pursue and eliminate. From the North Atlantic defense grid, Admiral Hana Yuri echoed the command. Confirmed. We can't let any of them escape to report what they learned. This needs to be total. The outer system platforms with better firing angles on the retreating ships fired again. Captain Wan Jie, commanding the Kuiper Belt Station at the edge of the solar system, had been waiting for this. His weapons were nova bombs, devices that created brief, contained stellar core conditions. When they detonated near a ship, temperatures reached millions of degrees. It was like flying into a miniature sun. Wan Jie released 34 nova bombs. They drifted on carefully calculated trajectories until they were among the fleeing Vrexian ships. Then they detonated. 34 small stars bloomed in the darkness. Every ship within range simply vaporized. No debris. No remains. Just atoms scattered across space. Kuiper Station going dark, Wan Jie reported. Bombs depleted. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, Commander Vokhtar clutched the arms of his command chair as his ship shook from near misses. Around him, his bridge crew worked frantically, trying to coordinate a retreat that was rapidly becoming a rout. Status! He shouted over the alarm klaxons. Sub-Commander Relkith's voice was shaking. We've lost 212 ships. The humans are using weapons we've never encountered. Our shields are ineffective. Our sensors can barely track their platforms. Sir, we need to jump to FTL now. The rest of the fleet? There won't be a fleet if we don't leave now. Vokhtar realized Relkith was right. This wasn't a battle. It was an execution. He had to warn the Empire. He had to tell them what he'd found. Earth wasn't a primitive world. It was something far more dangerous. Activate FTL communications, he ordered. Send a priority message to FTL communications are blocked, sir. the communications officer reported. The humans are using some kind of quantum disruption field. I can't establish a link. Of course they were. The humans had thought of everything. Vokhtar felt terror for the first time in his long military career. He was going to die here, in this backwater system, killed by a species he had thought primitive. Another proximity alarm. One of those relativistic projectiles was coming right at them. Evasive maneuvers, Vokhtar screamed. Too late. The tungsten rod struck the Eternal Dominion amidships at 90% light speed. The impact released more energy than a fusion bomb. The flagship of the Vrexian 7th Fleet came apart in a flash of light. Commander Vokhtar's last thought was that the Empire needed to know. Someone needed to warn them. Then he was gone. Back on Luna, Dr. Saul checked her chronometer. 42 seconds since the battle started. She pulled up the tactical feed. Only 38 enemy ships remained, all fleeing at maximum speed. The gravitational array recharged. Saul targeted the fleeing ships and fired. Space bent. The ships crumpled and vanished. 24 enemy ships left. Mars Station's rails came back online. Captain Mina fired. More flashes of light. More expanding plasma clouds. 11 enemy ships left. Commander Na's quantum beams lanced out from the asteroid belt. Hull metal glowed and melted. 5 enemy ships left. Lieutenant Tay fired the particle beams from Earth orbit. Matter dissolved into atoms. 2 enemy ships left. Admiral Yuri, coordinating from the Atlantic, assigned the final targets. Kuiper Station, you have the last 2. Understood, Captain Wanjay replied. But I'm out of Nova bombs. Use conventional weapons. We can't let them escape. Wanjay switched to the station's backup system, old-fashioned missile batteries. Not as impressive as the exotic weapons, but effective. He fired. The missiles streaked across space, their fusion drives pushing them to high speed. They struck the last 2 Vrexian ships and detonated. The final 2 icons on Admiral Day's tactical display blinked out. Silence fell across the command channels. All stations, report, Day said quietly. One by one, the reports came in. Lunar Defense, operational, no damage. Mars Station, operational, no damage. Asteroid Belt Platforms, operational, no damage. Earth Orbital Platforms, operational, no damage. Kuiper Station, operational, no damage. Human casualties, 0. Not a single shot from the Vrexian fleet had reached any human installation. Lieutenant Buell-Tai checked the chronometer and reported in a voice filled with wonder. Admiral, the engagement lasted 58 seconds from first shot to last target destroyed. 58 seconds. 300 alien warships destroyed. The most powerful fleet the Vrexian Empire could send, annihilated before they could fire a single effective shot. Day sat back in his chair. He suddenly felt very tired. All stations, maintain alert status. Begin debris recovery operations. We need to study their technology. He looked at Admiral Yuri on the screen. She looked as exhausted as he felt. We won, she said softly. We won, Day agreed. But this is just the beginning. When the rest of their empire realizes what happened here, they'll come back. More of them. We need to be ready. Around Earth, humanity's secret weapons powered down, but remained ready. The 58-second war was over. But the real test was still to come. The debris field stretched across thousands of kilometers of space. Twisted metal, frozen atmosphere, and the remains of 300 warships created a graveyard in orbit around Earth. Recovery teams in small spacecraft moved carefully through the wreckage, collecting samples and searching for intact technology. Admiral Kang Day hadn't slept in 36 hours. He stood in the Pan-Pacific Defense Center, watching the recovery operations on his monitors while drinking his 5th cup of coffee. Around him, his staff worked quietly, analyzing data from the battle. The 58-second war had answered one question but raised 100 more. The emergency meeting of the Global Defense Council had been going for 6 hours. Present were military commanders and political leaders from every major nation, all linked by secure video feed. Admiral Hana Yuri participated from the Atlantic Station. Dr. In Sol joined from Luna. Commander Ryu Na attended from her platform in the asteroid belt. Others called in from around the world. The question on everyone's mind was simple. What happens now? "We need to discuss the elephant in the room," said the American representative, General Park. "The debris field is impossible to hide. Amateur astronomers are already posting confused observations online. In a few days, maybe hours, the whole world will know something happened up here." Day nodded. He had been thinking about this problem since the battle ended. Agreed. "We can't keep this secret. We need to tell people the truth." "Tell them what exactly?" asked the Chinese representative. "That aliens attacked us? That we destroyed them? That we've been building secret weapons in space for 100 years? "Yes," Day said simply. "All of it. The age of secrets is over. Humanity needs to know we're not alone in the universe, and we need to be united for what comes next." Dr. Saul spoke up from her lab on Luna. "I've been analyzing the data cores we recovered from the debris. What I found is both fascinating and terrifying." She shared her findings with the council. The Vrexian Empire, she explained, was just one power among many. The galaxy contained over 300 spacefaring species, organized into various empires, federations, and alliances. The Vrexians controlled 47 star systems with a population of 60 billion. They had 12 fleets like the one they sent to Earth. "Wait," interrupted Admiral Yuri. "They have 11 more fleets? Each with 300 ships?" "Yes," Sewell confirmed. "The 7th Fleet was considered a minor expeditionary force. They expected it to be more than enough to conquer Earth." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. They had destroyed one fleet, but somewhere out there, 11 more existed. And behind those fleets, hundreds of other species with their own militaries. Commander Ryu Na, who had distinguished herself during the battle, raised the question everyone was thinking. How did we develop superior weapons compared to civilizations that have been exploring space for thousands of years? Sewell had an answer. She had spent the past day analyzing not just the Vrexian technology, but also the historical records in their data cores. What she discovered changed everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. Most species achieved faster than light travel early in their development, Sewell explained. For them, it was like humans discovering ocean navigation. Once they could travel to other stars, they expanded outward. Their focus became speed, distance, and colonization. "And their weapons?" asked General Park. "Their weapons evolved within certain parameters. Kinetic projectiles, plasma weapons, energy shields designed to stop those weapons. These technologies spread across the galaxy over millions of years. Everyone uses variations of the same basic ideas because that's what works against everyone else." Lieutenant Buelltai, sitting beside Day, was beginning to understand. "But humanity never got FTL travel. We were stuck in one solar system." "Exactly," Sewell said. "We couldn't expand outward, so we turned inward. We dove deep into theoretical physics, quantum mechanics, gravitational manipulation, relativistic weapons. We explored areas of science that other species ignored because they didn't need them. They had FTL. We didn't." Captain Wan Jie joined the conversation from the Kuiper Belt. "We're the species that got stuck on one island and spent centuries figuring out every possible way to defend it." "More than that," Sewell continued, "we're the species that split the atom and immediately weaponized it. We've been at war with each other for our entire history. We built weapons not because we met aliens, but because we were afraid of each other. Then when we started looking at the stars, we asked ourselves, what if someone out there is like us? What if they're hostile? So we prepared," Day said quietly. "For 100 years, in secret, we prepared." Captain Han Mina spoke from Mars Station. "The debris field is becoming a problem. Civilian observation satellites are starting to notice. We have maybe 12 hours before the story breaks." Day made a decision. "Then we don't wait. We go public now, before rumors and panic can spread. We tell the truth from a position of strength." The council debated for another hour, but ultimately agreed. That evening, a joint announcement was broadcast across every channel on Earth. The leaders of all major nations appeared together, explaining that humanity had made first contact with an alien species. The contact had been hostile. Earth had defended itself successfully. There had been no casualties. The world erupted in chaos, fear, Excitement, disbelief, protests, celebrations. Within hours, millions of people demanded answers. Millions more refused to believe it was real. But the evidence was undeniable. Telescopes could see the debris field. Defense platforms that had been secret for decades were now openly acknowledged. Humanity learned it was not alone in the universe, and it learned that the universe could be hostile. 3 days after the announcement, Day held a smaller meeting with his core team. Yuri, Sol, Tai, Mina, Nei, and Jay all joined by video link. They had a new problem to discuss. The Vrexians will send investigators when the 7th Fleet fails to report, Day said. When they find the debris field, they'll know what happened. What will they do? They'll attack again, Na said bluntly, but with more ships. Overwhelming force. Or, Lieutenant Tay said hesitantly, what if we don't wait for them to come to us? What if we go to them? The room went silent. It was a radical idea. Humanity had barely survived first contact. Now Tay was suggesting they go knocking on the enemy's door. Explain your thinking, Day said. Tay chose her words carefully. They came here expecting to find primitives. They found something completely different. Right now, we're a mystery to them. We're dangerous, but unknown. If we go to them before they can organize a response, we might be able to negotiate from a position of strength. Dr. Sol considered this. We do have their FTL technology now. Between the data cores and the intact drive systems we recovered, I could build a human ship capable of faster-than-light travel. It would take time, but it's possible. How much time? Yuri asked. 3 months, maybe 4. It would be crude, but functional. Admiral Yuri leaned forward in her video feed. So we build one ship. We load it with our best weapons, and we fly it to the Vrexian homeworld to talk? Not just to talk, Day said slowly, a plan forming in his mind. To show them exactly what we can do. To make them understand that attacking Earth again would be suicide. To offer them peace, but from a position of power. It's risky, Mina said. Everything is risky now, Na countered. We're in a new age. Hiding in our solar system isn't an option anymore, Captain J agreed. The captain is right. The galaxy knows we're here now. We can either wait for them to come to us, or we can show them we're not afraid. The discussion continued for hours. Arguments for and against. Risk assessments, strategic considerations. But eventually they reached a consensus. Humanity would build its first faster-than-light ship. They would load it with weapons and crew it with their best people. And they would go to the Vrexian Empire not as conquerors, but as equals demanding recognition. Day looked at his team, these people who had helped save Earth. If we do this, if we go to them, we'll be taking a huge gamble. We might start a war we can't win. Or, Sewell said quietly, we might prevent one. The decision was made. Work began immediately on what would become the HTMS Indomitable, humanity's first starship. Dr. Sol took charge of the engineering. The best military minds planned the mission. Volunteers lined up by the thousands, eager to be part of humanity's first journey to another star. Above Earth, the debris field slowly dispersed, spreading across the solar system. A reminder of the day humanity stopped being alone. The day they learned they could defend themselves. And the day they decided to take their place among the stars. 3 months and 17 days after the 58-second war, the HTMS Indomitable sat in Earth orbit, ready for its maiden voyage. The ship was a strange hybrid of human and Vrexian technology. Human weapons systems. Vrexian faster-than-light drive. Human defensive shields. Vrexian navigation computers reprogrammed with human software. Dr. Yoon Sol stood on the bridge checking systems one final time. She had barely slept during the construction process. The ship was her masterpiece and her nightmare. If anything went wrong during the FTL jump, the crew would be scattered across light years of space, lost forever. All systems green, she reported to Admiral Kang Day, who stood beside her in his crisp uniform. We're ready. Day nodded. He would be commanding this mission personally. Admiral Hana Yuri served as diplomatic envoy. Sol was chief science officer. Lieutenant Buell Tai commanded tactical systems. The crew numbered 200, all volunteers, all aware they might not come home. "Take us out," Day ordered. The Indomitable broke orbit and accelerated away from Earth. Below them, the planet slowly shrank. Day watched it go with mixed feelings. He had spent his entire career defending that blue world. Now he was leaving it behind to confront an empire that spanned 47 star systems. When they reached safe distance from Earth's gravity well, Sewell activated the FTL drive. Reality twisted, space folded. The ship slipped between normal space and something else, somewhere humans didn't have words for. Then they were moving faster than light, crossing distances that would take years at conventional speeds. The journey to the Vrexian homeworld took 6 days. 6 days of tension and preparation. Day drilled the crew constantly. Yuri prepared diplomatic speeches. Ty ran weapons drills. Everyone knew this mission could end in disaster. On the 6th day, they dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Vrexian home system. Alarms screamed immediately. Saul's sensors lit up like fireworks. "Sir, I'm reading 500 warships. They're surrounding us." Day had expected this. The Vrexians knew they were coming. The Indomitable had been broadcasting its approach for the past hour, giving the Vrexians time to prepare. Now those preparations revealed themselves. 500 ships, all with weapons charged, forming a sphere around the lone human vessel. A communication came through, the same harsh, clicking language they had heard before, now translated by their computers. "Human vessel, you have entered Vrexian space without authorization. Power down your weapons and surrender immediately, or we will destroy you." Admiral Yuri stepped forward. This was her moment. She activated the communication system and spoke in a clear, calm voice. "Vrexian High Command, this is Admiral Hana Yuri of Earth. We have come to establish diplomatic relations. We wish to speak with your leaders." There was a long pause. Then the Vrexian voice returned, dripping with contempt. "You destroyed our 7th Fleet. You killed thousands of Vrexian warriors. You will surrender and face justice for your crimes." Yuri had prepared for this response. She nodded to Tay, who activated a data transmission. The complete tactical breakdown of the 58-second war began broadcasting on all Vrexian frequencies. Every moment of the battle, every weapon system, every destroyed ship. The data included detailed analysis of human weapons capabilities, all designed to make one point absolutely clear. "You sent 300 ships to conquer Earth," Yuri said while the data transmitted. "We destroyed them all in less than 1 minute, not a single human casualty. Your 500 ships here are impressive, but our analysis suggests they would last approximately 93 seconds against our current weapon systems. That data is being transmitted to your high command now. They can verify it themselves." Silence. The Vrexian ships held their formation but didn't fire. Day could imagine the chaos on their command decks as military analysts studied the data, confirming the impossible, understanding what it meant. "However," Yuri continued, "we are not here to fight. We are here to talk. Earth wishes to join the galactic community. We seek peaceful relations with all civilized species. We offer trade, cultural exchange, and cooperation. But we will not be conquered. We will not be threatened. We will defend ourselves with absolute force if necessary." More silence. Then, finally, a different voice came through the communication system. Older. More measured. "Human vessel, you will proceed to the coordinates we are transmitting. You will be met by a diplomatic escort. Do not deviate from the flight path. Any aggressive action will be met with force." "Understood," Yuri replied. "We will comply." The Indomitable followed the designated course toward the Vrexian homeworld. The planet was larger than Earth, with deep purple oceans and red continents. Billions of Vrexians lived there, going about their daily lives, unaware that a human ship had just arrived in their system. The escort led them to a massive orbital station. Inside, they were met by Vrexian diplomats and, to Day's surprise, representatives from several other species. News of the human ship had spread quickly. Everyone wanted to see the species that had destroyed a Vrexian fleet in under a minute. The negotiations lasted 3 days. They were tense, hostile at times. The Vrexians demanded reparations for their lost fleet. Yuri refused. You attacked us without provocation. We defended ourselves. Under any civilized law, we are the victims, not you. Commander Ryu Na, serving as military attaché, presented humanity's defense doctrine. The Sol system was forbidden territory. Any unauthorized vessel entering human space would be destroyed without warning. Earth would maintain technological superiority through constant innovation. Humanity would share defensive technologies with no one, ever. But humanity also offered something revolutionary. Dr. Sol presented innovations in energy production that could boost Vrexian efficiency by 30%, medical technologies that could extend lifespans, agricultural methods that could feed billions, quantum computing advances that could revolutionize data processing. We developed these technologies while isolated in our solar system, Sol explained. Different path, different solutions. We offer them freely to species willing to sign peace treaties with Earth. The carrot and the stick. Advanced technology and cooperation for those who treated humanity as equals. Complete destruction for those who didn't. On the fourth day, the Vrexian High Command made their decision. They would sign a peace treaty with Earth. The Treaty of First Contact, they called it. It established Earth as a sovereign power, guaranteed humanity a seat in the Galactic Congress, and created a framework for peaceful interaction between humans and aliens. More importantly, it set a precedent. Within hours of the treaty signing, 47 other species requested diplomatic contact with Earth. The galaxy had been watching. They had seen the battle data. They understood what humanity could do. Admiral Day stood on the bridge of the Indomitable as they prepared to return to Earth. Through the viewport, he could see the Vrexian homeworld turning slowly against the stars. A world that days ago had wanted to destroy them. Now they were allies, or at least not enemies. Captain Wan Jie, who had been promoted and now served as the ship's tactical officer, approached. Admiral, do you think this peace will last? Day considered the question carefully. I think they're afraid of us. Fear can maintain peace for a while. But real peace will take time. We need to prove we're not just warriors. We need to show them we can create as well as destroy. Lieutenant Tay, monitoring communications, called out. Sir, we're receiving diplomatic requests from species across the galaxy. The Kalari Federation wants to establish trade relations. The Nexian Collective is requesting cultural exchange programs. The Tolar Empire is asking for a mutual defense pact. Yuri smiled. The galaxy is waking up to the fact that there's a new player, one they didn't expect. Sewell checked the FTL drive readings. We're ready to jump whenever you give the order, Admiral. Day took one last look at the alien world, then turned to his crew. Set course for Earth. Let's go home. The Indomitable engaged its FTL drive and vanished from Vrexian space. Behind them, they left a galaxy that would never be the same. Humanity had announced itself not with a greeting, but with a demonstration, not with weakness, but with strength. 6 days later, the ship dropped out of FTL near Earth. Day stood on the bridge, watching his homeworld grow larger on the view screen. It looked the same as when they left, blue and green and beautiful. But everything had changed. Day opened a communication channel to the Pan-Pacific Defense Center. Earth, this is the Indomitable. Mission successful. We're coming home. Below, in the Defense Center, celebrations erupted. Humanity had gone to the stars and returned victorious. Not through conquest, but through strength and diplomacy. They had earned their place in the galactic community. But even as Earth celebrated, the defense platforms remained operational. Weapons stayed ready. Engineers continued developing new technologies. Humanity had learned its lesson over 10,000 years of bloody history. Hope for peace. Prepare for war. Never assume you're safe. In the months that followed, Earth transformed. Alien diplomats arrived. Trade agreements were signed. Cultural exchanges began. Humanity started building more starships. The isolation was over. Earth was now part of something larger. Admiral Day retired from active service but remained as an advisor. Admiral Yuri became Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Congress. Dr. Saul continued her research, now with access to technologies from hundreds of alien species. Lieutenant Tay received her own command. Commander Na built advanced defensive platforms throughout the solar system. Captain J explored the galaxy on Earth's growing fleet of starships. Captain Mina established the first human colony on a world beyond the Sol system. And through it all, humanity remembered the lesson of the 58-second war. They were not invincible. They were not the strongest species in the galaxy, but they were the species that had survived alone in the darkness, preparing for the worst, hoping for the best. The species that, when commanded to surrender, chose to fight instead. The species that reached for the stars and refused to be conquered. Years later, in the Galactic Congress, a young alien diplomat asked an old human ambassador what made humanity so dangerous. The ambassador, once Lieutenant Buell-Tai, smiled and said, "We're the species that spent 100 years building weapons against an enemy we'd never met. We're the species that planned for invasion before we even knew aliens existed. We're paranoid, creative, and absolutely determined to survive." She paused, then added, "And we're the species that will defend our home with everything we have, against anyone who threatens it. That's what makes us dangerous. That's what makes us human." The alien diplomat nodded slowly, beginning to understand. Humanity had joined the galactic community, but on their own terms, as warriors and diplomats, as scientists and explorers, as a species that would never again be underestimated. The 58-second war had ended, but humanity's story among the stars had just begun.